Hello, welcome to this lesson on the conditionals in English. So today here at Castells Immersecom, we're going to just give you a quick introduction to conditional tense in English. Now you need to stay with us because we'll be releasing all of the episodes over the coming weeks. Today we're going to introduce you to the different types of conditionals that there are in English. And then in the coming weeks, we're going to be looking at the zero conditional, the first, the second, the third, and then finally mixed conditionals. We're going to be looking at each of those in detail. So today I'm going to give you a little introduction to conditional tenses in English. So there are, as I mentioned, a number of tenses that we can use, different versions. The first being the zero conditional. Then there is the first conditional, the second conditional, the third conditional, and then mixed conditionals. The first thing we need to know about the conditional tenses is how and what they're really used for in English. Conditional tenses basically progress from the zero conditional, which is true, all the way up to the third conditional, which is a hypothetical or situation, or when we reflect on things and we consider an alternative outcome or an alternative reality, something that actually may or may not have happened if we look back at it in the past. So let's start with the simple one, which is the zero conditional. The zero conditional basically is used to talk about things that are true or facts that are true, so scientific facts or things that are actually true in the world. So the sky is blue and if it rains, you get wet. Okay, so these are facts, no? Like it's true the sky is blue, and if it rains, then what happens? You get wet. So you can see how I've used the zero conditional. This is when we use the simple present tense plus in the first clause and the simple present tense in the second clause. So if it rains, rain. If it rains, that's present simple, and you get wet. So get is also present simple. And you'll notice that I've put the if clause first. So the if clause is the first one, if it rains, which in written English, it is followed by a comma. And then the second clause, you get wet. Okay, you can actually change the order. If you do change the order of the clauses and you put the if conditional second, then you don't need a comma. So let me give an example. You get wet if it rains. Okay, now, so this is true. If you're looking at the next one, which is the first conditional, what you'll notice is that it's becoming less true and a little bit more hypothetical. So we're introducing more condition into the actual sentence as we progress from the zero up to the third. So let me show you the first conditional. So the first conditional uses the simple present in the first clause, and then in the second clause, it can use will or imperative. Now remember, imperative is an order. So let me give you an example. If you go to the shop, so go is a present simple, then will you buy me some chocolate? So if you go to the shop, will you buy me some chocolate? Or that's with the future will. Or you could say, if you go to the shop, buy me some chocolate. And that's the imperative. So again, we've got the first clause, which starts with if, the second clause, which has a variation of will or imperative, depending on what you're trying to say. Okay, so that's the first conditional. Again, we can swap the order. Now the second conditional is even more suggestive and more conditional. So let me explain that to you. So in the second conditional, we actually use the simple past in the first clause, and we use would in the second clause. So for example, if I went to the shop, I would buy you some chocolate. I'm not planning on going to the shop, so it's less conditional. It's like, you know, if in an ideal world, if I went to the shop, which I'm not going to go, I'm not going to the shop, but if I went, I would buy you some chocolate. So I don't have the intention to go to the shop, okay? But if I went, I would buy you some chocolate. So this you can see is less conditional than if I go to the shop, I will buy you some chocolate. If I go to the shop, I will buy you some chocolate. Sounds like, yes, okay, there's a good possibility that I will go to the shop. So the first conditional with the simple past, if I go, is more probable than the second conditional with the simple past, if I went. Okay, so it's really important to remember that as we move from the zero, the first and the second conditional, they become less probable and more suggestive, or there's more condition attached to them. Now, the third conditional is a bit different because it's used to talk about situations in the past and then reflect on them and imagine a different outcome. And we use the past perfect, which is, if you know, had plus a past participle verb, so had gone. And then in the second clause, we use the conditional perfect, which is would have plus a past participle verb. So if we take the example I used earlier, if I had gone to the shop, then the next clause is I would have bought you some chocolate. Okay, so I'm looking back in the past. I didn't go to the shop, but if I had, I would have bought you some chocolate. So you can see that the third condition is a little bit more complicated because it's using much more advanced structures. So we're going to look at that in more detail in the coming weeks as we release the more detailed descriptions and episodes on the conditional tenses. And finally, before I go, there's the mixed conditional tenses, which usually are mixing between the third conditional and the second conditional, because we reflect back on the situation in the past and say, if, I had gone to the shop, okay, if I had gone to the shop, and then we use the second conditional, the second clause of the second conditional, which I mentioned was would, because what happens is when we use would, the thing is either true or it would be true now in the present. So if I had gone to the shop, now I would have some chocolate for you. Okay? So I would have, that's using would with the conditional. Okay, would have. So you're using conditional would, which is related to the second conditional. Okay, so you're mixing the third and the second conditional to talk about a situation in the past and then what reality or what impact it's having now in the present. So that's really important to understand, and we're going to go into more detail because mixed conditionals can be a little bit confusing too. So that's my introduction to conditionals. We use them a lot in everyday English because we need to talk hypothetically, or we need to speak about situations with condition attached to them. We use them a lot in business because if we negotiate, we need to attach conditions to the negotiation. And we use them a lot with our children because, if you don't do your homework, I won't buy you a new bike. I mean, these are all situations where we're using the conditionals in everyday English. So it's really important that you understand them, and it's really important that you master the 0, 1, and 2, because those are very common. And then when you're feeling confident with the 0, 1, and 2, you can master the third conditional, and then finally you can master the mixed conditionals. So that's it from me. Check out the blog. You will see all of the explanation of the introduction here to conditionals on our blog at castelsimmersecom.com. And if you are interested in improving your English, then check out some of our online courses where you can learn and improve your grammar step by step at your own pace. So I'm going to see you all next week as we describe the 0 conditional in detail. Take care. Bye for now.